Hello, today I'm joined by Lorie Eber, a national board certified health and wellness coach, nutritionist, and metabolic health specialist who works primarily with women in midlife whose bodies no longer respond to the old eat less, move more playbook. Through her metabolic reset program, speaking and coaching, Lorie helps people move out of willpower, shame, and self criticism and into sustainable behavior change by focusing on stress, sleep, nervous system safety, and realistic habits that actually stick in real life. There's a lot there. Thank you so much for joining us today from the warmth of Southern California to the rain of South London. Um, I
Thanks
want
for
to
the
take you back.
invitation, Andrew. I very much appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to take you back just a little bit. Just if you could perhaps describe your formative years. What were you like maybe as a 15, 16-year-old? And when did you recognize that the place you are today is the place that you're supposed to be?
Uh, just briefly, huh?
Yeah. Just in a few sentences. Fine.
Okay. I was a very shy young person. I had a first career, which was law as a
Mhm.
corporate litigator. So I was aggressive and mean. Talking about empathy, I know that's kind of one of your themes. That doesn't work with corporate litigation. I watched a show called Perry Mason, which was
Yeah.
popular in the US, and I decided as soon as I saw it, I want to be Perry Mason because I want to win every week.
Is that how it works out? Yes.
Yeah, he always won. So I went to law school. I practiced law for 23 years. It was extremely enjoyable. And then at age 49, I early retired and tried to find out more about myself, the world, and what would be more personally satisfying. And so it took me 10 years to explore various careers and find wellness coaching, which is definitely my passion. It's been a journey and it continues, and that's life, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing. It was pretty scary to leave the law because I was very entrenched in it. It was my entire life. I had no personal life. That was by choice. Worked for me at the time. I thought I'd do the balance thing later, but I was honest with myself. I was not trying to do the balance juggling act, which is why I decided against having any children because I thought it would be unfair. Why have a baby and farm it out to another person called daycare to raise and then feel guilty at home and at work? Nope. I just threw myself into work. I work like a crazy person. It was somewhat more difficult because, as you can tell, I'm a girl and this was a boys' club. And
Mm.
I don't know how much it's changed since I was trying to get into the partnership, but believe me, they were not very amenable to having women join the ranks. So it became quite difficult, but I stuck with it and I got in and I opened and ran a branch office that no one gave any chance of success to. And then what happened was I'd gotten remarried. Husband number one was kind of a 7 year blip mistake. We all have to practice,
Yeah, of course.
you
Yeah.
get better with practice, right? Husband number two seemed like he was worth a time investment, and I realized that I'm not very capable of flipping roles. So, in other words, I would come home from the office, even if I wasn't physically present, the stress level was there and my brain was still racing. And I would be talking to my husband, and he would say, "I'm not your secretary." And I go, "Oh my, I guess I still sound like the boss to my husband. Not good." And I thought about it and I thought, I know myself and I can't flip the switch like that. I just can't be home and suddenly be a kind, wonderful, giving person on a dime because I was too stressed out all the time. I mean, I was permanently in fight or flight stress mode, permanently. And it's not the way our bodies are designed to work. That's very clear. I know that from my metabolic health training. But it's kind of a high, Andrew, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
It's kind of a fun place to live, but you
Hmm.
have to realize you're not equipped to live that way biologically, and you're really going to do some harm to yourself eventually. Anyway, so I figured out, on my deathbed, I'm really not going to be saying something akin to, "Gee, I wish I had billed a couple more hours for the law firm." That didn't seem like the most likely top of mind thought. So I thought, why don't I finally pay attention to developing a wonderful personal relationship that can bring me a lot of joy in life
Hmm.
and have that on my deathbed? At least I affected one other person who truly loved me. I mean, I think if you can do that, that's pretty damn good. If you can do better, more power to you. I ain't counting on it. Um, so that's kind of the answer to the meandering. But it was very fun, very scary and very fun to retire. Very, very scary because my whole self of Lorie was Lorie the lawyer.
Yeah.
And when I put her to bed at age 49, I thought, uh-oh, who lives here? I have no idea. And even more scary, Andrew, was, does she have any other skills and talents, or did she just get incredibly lucky and the few that she had happened to fit perfectly with the legal profession and that's why she was good at it? And now she's going to be a stumbler, bumbler, and never be able to do anything productive again. So that was kind of my first thought. Panic. I tell people if they want to make a radical career change, identity change like I did, you really should go get some psychological counseling because, boy, I could have used some. But then I started to discover all kinds of wonderful things about myself and abilities that I had or could develop. And some of it was kind of going with your empathy theme,
Hmm.
Andrew. When I was practicing law, one of the things I find I got tired about was being mean all the time.
Yeah.
Because as a litigator, basically, you have to be aggressive or they're going to run over you. And if you're a little female like I am, they figure piece of cake. So I got to be extra mean. And that wasn't a problem. It was an act I could do very well, turn on and off. After all, I grew up in New York City. I was already trained. And so, they were not going to intimidate me, but it was tiring just to have that front on all the time. And the clients want to see it too. They want someone who fights for them. They don't want some wimpy, go along, agreeable type lawyer. That's not what they hire you for. You're the warrior, and you better look like it, and you better talk like it. And so one of the things I noticed was I got tired of it, and I was also looking for maybe there's kind of a nicer side to Lorie who can be kind to people and caring and a little more outgoing and not so, just personally involved all the time.
Mm.
And I did find that person, and that's felt very good. I feel like more of myself than I had before. Before it was a little slice, it worked well in that context, but it wasn't really me. It was really an act.
When people perhaps listen to the conversation that will follow, a lot of things that they'll think about are the words discipline, and people often think, "Oh, I can't change or make a change. So I lack discipline. I'm not disciplined enough. I've sort of failed. Somehow the fail is inherent in me." But you're very keen to stress that it's actually because they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're being too hard on themselves. I wonder
Yep.
if you could just talk a little bit about the difference between people believing they lack discipline and the fact that just the environment that they're in is limiting their ability to change.
You encapsulated that very well because what I tell them, and I've been on this planet a while, I have seen the food environment and the exercise environment change radically during my lifetime. And I've also observed when I was a young kid, there was maybe one overweight person in my school. One.
Mm. Yeah.
Now the one is the exception. And
Yeah.
look, willpower ability of the human race has not changed. It's not that we became weak willed, it is that the environment is radically different. And one of my books I titled How to Be Healthy in a World Designed to Make Us Fat and Lazy. And that really is the world we live in now. It is so convenient to overeat and eat junky food. It is so convenient to sit in your car and never move your butt, to stare at your two or three computer screens for hours and hours and hours. And that's the lifestyle we have. When we were little, we were kids, you could not get us in for dinner. You were ringing that bell 15 times. Now you can't get the kid out of the house because, he's playing something on his computer. He doesn't want to move. And people used to be more physically active in their work, even if they had kind of an office job. Now they just sit and stare at the computer. I work in an executive suite kind of setup.
Hmm.
So it's a bunch of little offices, different businesses. And as I walk by, I'll see this person, and two computer screens, and they haven't moved for 4 hours. And they don't even drink water because then it would be inconvenient. They'd have to go to the restroom and take a break. Oh my God. And they have, one Zoom call, another Zoom call, another Zoom call. They're not eating lunch. They don't have time. They don't take any what I call exer-snacks, which is one of my recommendations, a short break. Get up, move your body, maybe go outside 5 or 10 minutes and exer-snack. Your body's default position really is movement continuously. That's the way bodies are designed to thrive. And look what we've done. We sit almost all the time. And when I was a lawyer, I deluded myself. I was ignorant. I thought, well, I work out in the morning. That's good enough. It's okay. I sit all day. Well, it's not. They're calling, continuous sitting the new smoking. It is a deadly thing for your body. Everything is slowing down. It's definitely a prescription for weight gain because let's not hurry. Why don't we just store it as fat? So it's things like that that have changed. And the food environment is just insane. We're eating way too much food and we're eating the wrong kinds of food. What we should be eating is pretty simple, the stuff God put on the planet. End of sentence. Not this prepackaged, contrived in a manufacturing plant for 10 years with just the right addictive amount of
Hmm.
fat and sugar and grains and everything, and a very soft texture. So it's very easy to eat too much of it because you're not even hardly chewing it. And you just don't realize you're eating like 3 times the amount of food your body needs.
Yeah.
And they give you a portion, which is 3 times what you should be eating. And we're capable of eating it, and we do. And then you look around. But one thing I noticed recently, because I went back to New York to visit my family, New Yorkers walk.
Yeah.
It really is the best way to get around. Forget the mass transit. Unless you're going really far, you are just walking, and you're walking fast. You're not walking fast, you're going to get mowed down on the sidewalk. People are walking and they're running across the street because who needs to, the lights don't mean anything. They're just, a suggestion. But most of the streets are fairly narrow in terms of the
Hmm.
actual street part. You can run. And so people walk. And I noticed a lot less obesity in New York City just because of that factor. And the food environment is equally bad, maybe worse. But just the lack of movement is making a huge difference. I mean, I live in Southern California, and here's what we do here. We have outdoor malls, okay? So I go to one store, I park my car literally as close as I possibly can to the entrance, and we'll have a fight over that, right? That's what people do. And then they're going to another store that's maybe 4 stores down. They will actually get back in their car, drive there, and repark because they can't walk that far or they're in such a burning down the house emergency. They don't have time to do, it's crazy. And we don't have time for our health now. That's the other thing. We have gotten so overburdened. And I think a lot of the tension and stress really is coming from technology. Do you think so?
I really do. I mean, I guess for gosh, a couple of reasons. So one, I've got two teenage children. One's 19 and one's 16. And certainly when I was growing up, the same as you, I didn't have a. We had a landline at home. People would ring the landline, and that was it. There was no smartphones. There was no internet. There was no social media. I didn't have a computer when I first started
I
work.
didn't either.
And
A dictating machine was a huge advance in my life.
it was. I mean, when I first started work, I worked in a big department store, and we had a typing pool of 40. It was women, 40 women. You wrote a
Yeah,
letter on a piece of paper, took it to
yeah,
them. 2 days later, you get it back and you post it. And
yeah.
that was wow, this is great. They're typing letters for me. And then email came along, which is meant to make our life so much easier and save us so much time. It doesn't. My inbox now is probably sitting at 1,000 emails,
Yep.
and most of which are just copied in to cover somebody's backside and not
Yes.
relevant at all, or spam. And I think it's crazy in a way that we have this amazing, and I think technology is amazing.
I do too, and
It
I
gives the
love
ability. Yeah, yeah. So you're in Southern California. I'm in London. I can see you. I can talk to you. We're having a conversation. That's
yes,
amazing. But at the same time, it does feel like we're more disconnected than ever before in terms
yes.
of real life conversations, friendships. We've seen an increase in loneliness. We've seen people that don't have best friends, don't have more than two friends.
And it's really hard for kids.
It really is. It really is.
There's a lot of, fake stuff and allows them to feel horrible about themselves because they don't look like this person. They don't have an exciting life kind of thing. And I also think, Andrew, it creates sort of a feeling of immediacy, like everything is that your hair is on fire. You hear something, you get a noise from your phone. Oh my God, I get a noise from my watch. What it's telling me, I got to
Yeah.
pay attention immediately. Like 99% of the time, it's not important at all. But whatever you were doing, you're now interrupting it. You're going to the useless piece of information. Then you're having to get your brain back in the other place. It's a big way to waste a lot of time. And some people are just, they doom scroll all the time. I have a lot of clients who don't go to bed on time because they're scrolling on social media. Why?
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't know.
amazing. Before you know it, half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours,
Yes.
and you've done nothing at all. And the one thing that always amazes me is that I'll go out to a restaurant with my wife and I look across, and
Oh, yeah. I
other
love it.
people are just they sat there on their phones. But they're on a date or whatever they're on, and literally they're both on. That's basically saying you're not interesting enough for me to spend time with. So I've got to find
Exactly.
somebody else.
I sit
Isn't that
there,
amazing?
Andrew. I have observed the same thing, and my thought is this: you obviously went out to dinner with the wrong people.
Absolutely, yes.
That's what I think. You went out to dinner
Yeah.
with the wrong people. You want to be with these other people, apparently. One thing I have read about occasionally, there are a couple of restaurants that tell you leave your phone at the front desk, or they
Yeah.
give you a discount if you
Hmm.
give up your phone for a while or something. But I agree
Yeah.
with you. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And, I see it sort of as an anesthesia in the doctor's waiting room too, because it used to be, doctors are always overbooked.
Hmm.
So I get up 6 times because I was very irate that, I've been wasting all this time and,
Yeah.
doctor's time is obviously more important than my time. And
Yes.
I'd make a pest of myself with the front desk people. Now people are just anesthetized. They could sit there 3 hours. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. They don't even look up. They don't care. It's really different.
People really, it sounds silly, people struggle to do nothing. And there's
Yes.
been lots of experiments, lots of research where, somebody sort of, right, you need to sort of sit here for half an hour, no phone, no device, whatever. And people, they cannot conceive of anything worse, that cannot conceive of being without something for an hour.
Right.
And it's, whereas when I was a kid, we were allowed to be bored sometimes, but now
Yeah,
almost being bored
exactly.
seems to be something you avoid, really.
Yeah, you pull your phone out and you're not bored. You're reading this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, as you say, in many ways, it is really amazing. I mean, do you remember encyclopedias?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, your phone is that and a bazillion times more. I mean, it is pretty incredible when you think about it.
I mean, it's
But
extraordinary. All the knowledge of human life is in our devices, which is
it really
absolutely.
is.
I'm trying to talk to my kids about going to the library, getting a book out. boring about all those things. And they just can't. What you just? Well, why don't you just Google it? Okay, well, it didn't exist, and they can't. But I'm sure in another generation's time, people will be, what, you use the phone? What? How you didn't just
Exactly. Yeah,
imagine it and it was there? Or so every generation has their own thing, really.
they do.
But just coming back to metabolic health just for a minute. So one of the things you focus on is metabolic health for women in midlife. And my wife's just turned 50. She's going through perimenopause and menopause, and I still think with all the amazing advances we've made in so many parts of our life, perimenopause, menopause is one of the things that really still seems to be massively underserved, under researched, underinvested in.
You know what's amazing, Andrew? Medical school does not teach doctors one course in menopause.
Which but half, it's amazing because half of the planet has gets it. It's not. It's
Yes, and
your mum gets it,
it
your
can go
sister gets
on,
it, your wife gets
go
it.
on
It's not.
for a decade. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think that's important enough to cover? Well, of course, they haven't covered nutrition either, until recently. I guess RFK is making them do it now. But
mhm,
yeah, there are just weird gaps in medical training. So they know nothing about it. And I took a bunch of coursework in menopause, and I learned that there is a national society in the US where physicians who are actually interested in knowing more about menopause educate themselves and take a test and belong to an association. So if a woman is struggling with her OBGYN or GP who just doesn't know anything about it or is
mhm,
misinformed, you can go there and you can find one of those certified menopause people in your area, which is
mhm,
helpful to know because there is so much misinformation. But
mhm.
that's starting to change because guess what? The Queen, Oprah, is now talking about it.
That's what you need, isn't it?
So that'll
So,
help.
so what?
Celebrities
So
talking.
what does just for me and just people that are listening? What does metabolic health actually mean, and how do you approach improving somebody's metabolic health?
Here's the way I explain it. I'm not
Mhm.
scientific. I don't think most people want a science-based explanation.
Yeah, just can't listen.
But the way our bodies function is our physical body and our brain are in communication all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't even think about that. Most people live in their heads. The body is like along for the ride. I wish I didn't have to deal with it kind of thing. It needs to be fed. It needs to go to the restroom. Oh my God, what an imposition. But the body and brain are talking to each other. The gut microbiome, what's going on there is a big deal. Stress affects you physiologically, it comes
Hmm.
out in the body somewhere. Something like 80% of all ER visits are stress incidents.
Hmm.
Usually people think they're having heart attacks. No, they're stressed out. So there's all kinds of communication going on, and things like sleep matter tremendously in terms of, does your body function properly? Does your brain function properly? We know that sleep deprivation on a regular basis, which is where most Americans are, can help contribute to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. And also, look, if our bodies need a certain amount of sleep, let's say 7 hours, which is kind of the average, there must be a pretty good biological reason for it. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of repair work going on there. And some of the things that matter a lot to people that they don't realize are your hunger hormones are properly reset when you sleep adequately. And if you don't, you got more cortisol running around your system, which means more of an appetite for junk food, more of an appetite for overeating, more likelihood that your body's going to store whatever you eat as fat. So your brain and your stress level and your sleep, and also another thing you mentioned, social connection is really, really important.
Mm.
And feeling like you have a purposeful life and are doing something useful. Super, super important. All those things matter. And what happens is I get a lot of women at midlife and they're just desperate to lose, their 5 or 10 pounds or maybe a lot more. And all they focus on is eating,
Hmm.
maybe exercise, but nothing more than those. They don't think about the whole part of, what effect stress has, what effect sleep deprivation has, what effect lack of social connection has, or not drinking enough fluids has. But you got to understand it's one being, your whole body and your brain, and they're talking. And we know, when your gut is upset, it goes right to the brain. There's something called the vagus nerve. It transfers right up there and it makes you feel anxious. So there's a lot more going on, and it is not just, should not be calorie focused. That's not the biggest part of the deal at all. And basically, it comes down to you got to control your stress is most people's real issue. They are just too stressed out and they don't think about it. A lot of people are kind of in denial about their stress. They'll come in and I'll say, "You a stress eater?" "Oh, no, 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 no." And then they'll do a food diary for a couple of weeks and they'll go, "I think I'm a stress eater." And then I'll start talking to them about, okay, what are the sources of your stress? Because we need to deal with them. And how they are dealt with is very individual. And what we perceive as stress is also very individual.
Yeah.
Something that stresses me out might not stress you out, and vice versa. It's all, a matter of who you are. But, everything that goes in here, it all starts up here. So I sort of get inside people's heads, and, we're talking about your whole life, basically. And a lot of women who come to me midlife or maybe a little later have always had very other directed lives. They're taking care of other people.
Yeah.
That's what they do, particularly moms.
Hmm.
And they never take care of themselves. They never make it to the top of their own list. And now it's finally time when, they're going to feel selfish even thinking about themselves. But they have to, because a lot of them realize I want to be around for my grandkids. I don't want to be the mom who sits on the couch and says, I can't do this with you. She needs to be able to get on the floor and, more importantly, get back up. And you want to go on vacation? Guess what? You got to have some stamina. You're going to have to walk. So you got to get in some kind of decent shape to do that. And so that's really what metabolic life is about. It's about looking at your whole body and brain as one package that all interrelates all the time. It's not just what you put in your mouth. And also, calories in, calories out is very deceptive because, junky calories turn into glucose really fast and don't keep you full. And good calories from whole food, same number, it's going to keep you full. So it really is
Yeah.
food quality more anyway. But people get so fixated on the number or the way they look and they don't understand. No, it's a much more complex deal than what they're thinking about.
Mm. And it does make me think. So one of the big things we've seen in the last couple of years has been the big growth on weight loss jabs, things like
Yeah.
Ozempic and things. And I do have a worry that exactly because what you just said, yes, they may be very, very effective in helping somebody lose weight. And we've seen dramatic pictures of people, but it doesn't touch on anything else in your life. So it does make me worry in, who knows, maybe in 5, 10, 20 years' time, we'll find out they were as dangerous as smoking was or sitting is now, that those things aren't getting anywhere near the root cause. They're very much a sticking plaster solution. Do you have clients that have had bad experiences on those, or people that are debating whether to go on it or not? And you're almost having to say, look, I've got the solution. It's just not the quick fix that you're looking for in these jabs and things. I wonder where your thoughts were on those.
It's almost like we're having a mind meld because I was about to bring that up.
Right.
They're pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Understand that before the GLP-1s came along, there were a couple prescription medications for weight loss. The
Yep.
reality is they didn't work well. They caused diarrhea, stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. That's all they did. So guess what? Here comes a drug. It actually works because it goes right to your hunger hormones. So you're not as hungry and you feel full longer. That's the layman's explanation of what happens.
Hmm.
So they can work. And I am not opposed to people using them. However, you still need to make the lifestyle change. And when you're on the drug, you need to be much more cognizant of being extremely healthy, getting enough protein and water, managing the side effects properly, strength training, because, up to 40% of the weight you lose might be lean muscle mass, which means if you ever get off the drug, which you probably will, you have a slower metabolism. So here's what I see happening. I don't think they're a bad thing per se. I have a
Mhm.
number of clients who are on them and also coaching with me, and I think that's optimal. I think some people truly need them
Mhm.
to get it going because weight becomes very stubborn, especially it's been on you 40, 50 years and you're older. It's very hard to ditch a lot of weight and it's very frustrating. And it's the unusual person who can stick with it. But here's what's happening. These people are going to their doctor and their doctor is prescribing the medication. End of story. No advice, no referral to a nutritionist, which is what they all should be doing. Even the guidelines say that. And they've spent all their money already buying the GLP-1. They don't have money to spend on anything else. And they don't understand the absolute importance of doing it properly. And eventually, you got to get off it and you got to do the healthy lifestyle behavior change you need to do in the first place. So I don't see them as a bad jump start or a way to manage reasonable pace of weight loss. I see a lot of side effects for sure.
Yeah.
And certainly a lot of people get off them because of the side effects and or the cost, although I think the cost is coming down. And the real driver here is big pharma. This is a $1 billion industry. 1 in 8 Americans is on the drug. 1 in 8.
Wow. Wow. I did not know that.
And basically it's killed my weight loss business, Andrew.
Absolutely. Wow.
Sidelight. Yeah, it's incredible. And here's another thing. It's interesting because one of the things you talk about is stigma and how
Mm.
we should be more empathetic. Well, there's stigma with these drugs
Yeah.
because a lot of people are not copping to the fact that they're using.
No.
They they either lie or no, I'm doing it. They're ashamed. They're
Mm.
ashamed that they're doing it, and they shouldn't be. I don't think so. Is it a magic trick? Yeah, but it's one that works. But it doesn't work forever at the same pace. A lot of people, they'll lose a pound or two a week and then they'll stall out on the drug. That happens very frequently. And sometimes you can switch to a different one and start it up again. And sometimes you just stalled. The other interesting thing about these drugs is they're basically saying they cure every ailment known to man.
Yes.
It's kind of like when hormone replacement therapy hit the
Yeah.
public. It was the same thing. You should stay on this till you die. You're immune from anything. And then, ironically, the research went exactly the opposite direction. They're going to kill you immediately. And
Yeah.
guess what? The answer is a lot more nuanced in the middle. But I
Mm.
am hearing some physicians say people should be on a maintenance dose of this drug till they die. Why not? It's the same as blood pressure medication. If I'm big pharma, why not is right. The other thing is
Absolutely.
now we have a pill, so that makes it a lot easier because a certain number of people didn't want to jab themselves.
Yeah.
And also it needed to be refrigerated, so that became a problem if they were vacationing or something. But here's what I think, so okay, I'm on the drug, I'm losing weight, I'm looking better, I'm lying to people and saying I'm doing it the right way because I don't want to embarrass myself. And I go out to dinner with my friends, which is what we do to socialize. I order an entree and I can only eat 3 bites. How is that enjoyable?
Yeah. That social connection piece goes, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So I don't know that, on a long-term basis, this is a real lifestyle for people. And the side effects, as I say, some people they can't tolerate them at all. Some people they're fairly mild and they dissipate as they titrate up. And some people really don't have any. And something like 10% of the population, the drug doesn't work at all. And more likely to be men that it doesn't work for, interestingly enough. But I do see some research about it helping other conditions like POCS, polycystic,
Hmm.
whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Audience has no idea, but I can't. Oh, polycystic ovarian, something like that.
Hmm.
But it's a pretty miserable disease to have, and it's not that uncommon in women. And it does show good efficacy in solving a lot of the symptoms related to POCS. And also, that's related to weight gain, often, that syndrome.
Hmm.
But they're now talking about it for, drug addiction, nicotine addiction, depression, everything, everything, everything. And I think that's probably a little bit of a stretch. And I understand there is just huge economic greed involved here. I mean, you thought, erectile dysfunction was a big deal. Viagra, oh my God, this just blows that out of the water. And they all made a lot of money from COVID vaccines, and they're going to make even more
Yeah,
money from this.
yeah, definitely.
But I
Yeah,
have people who come to me and they just say, I don't want to do it. I don't want to put this drug in my body. Like you say, who knows what the long term effects are? We don't know. I mean, we see some, I'm reading baldness. Do I want to be bald? Not really. I'm seeing, just bizarre looking faces and feet and stuff like that. But there are other more serious medical problems that are going to arise, and we just don't know. These people who are on it now are the guinea pigs.
absolutely. Yeah, I've always sort of thought, gosh, if you have to take a medication that is going to enhance your life or will save you from an illness or an ailment, whatever, absolutely nothing against that. But
Yes,
if it's something else, and like you say, we don't know ultimately what the long term effects are going to be. It just feel like it's a bit of a gamble, really, for not very much. Do you find sometimes, obviously, in your career, in your legal career, rather, so much of that was about the portrayal of yourself to the external world, sort of being perfect, getting everything right. Do you find that when women come to you sometimes, perhaps in midlife, that helping them get off the sort of perfection hamster wheel is a bit of a challenge? Because we
yeah,
all want to be the best we can be, but there's a difference between being great and being perfect, because perfect, it just doesn't exist, does it? But we still invest a lot of energy, sweat, tears, upset
yes,
in trying to
yes,
become
yes,
perfect.
yes. It's very common because a lot of women who come to me, they had high-powered careers like I did,
Yeah,
and they want to be perfect. And to me, it's kind of like wanting to be excellent is a wonderful trait, but like anything else, you can take it too far.
yeah.
And you can expect yourself to be perfect. And what I say to people now, and I struggle with the syndrome still, is did someone tell you you were God? Oh, they didn't. Okay, then you're not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah,
But I see them do it. I mean, we'll set a couple of goals, things they're going to work on, specific things this week. And if they don't achieve each one 100%, they are just beating the crap out of themselves like you wouldn't believe. So here's what I do. Every session, I say, okay, we start positive. You know that. I know you want to come here and dump and confess your sins and tell me all the things you messed up. I'm sorry. You have to first come up with at least one thing that you did that was different, that you're proud of, that you did well. And I'll tell you, Andrew, it is a stumper, even though they know I'm going to ask them every week. And then, so they couldn't come up with anything. And then we talk and we're talking, and they say, oh, yeah, and I went and bought some new clothes and they're a size smaller. And I'm like, hello, that was a good oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. We're very predisposed in that way. And a lot of people are perfectionists, especially people who are quite accomplished,
mm,
because I see it as that trait, but you just take it a bit too far. And, you beat up on yourself all the time instead of saying, yeah, I messed up. I'm sorry. I'm human. Yeah, I misscheduled your appointment. I'm really sorry. I know. I feel badly. What can I do to make it up for you and move on? But I have often felt the need to be perfect. And when I was a lawyer, if I mess something up, I'm more likely to see if I can cover my tracks than come out and just say, yep, I messed that up. And so what I learned from that experience, and when I was doing a lot of hiring, particularly in the branch office, I would tell them right up front, look, you're going to mess things up. You're going to miss a date. You're going to make a mistake. I know you are. You're human. I expect that. Here's all I want you to do. When that happens, please come to me. It's always fixable. But if you wait and you sweep it under the rug, that's when bad stuff happens. So do not do that to yourself. So I had one instance, I thought this was funny. So the guy obviously did not want to cop to what he did wrong. So here's what happened. His secretary came to me and told me. She ratted him out for me.
I like that. Do you find that when you go into speak to corporations, speak to businesses about sort of corporate wellness, do you find that there's still a big gap between how workplace culture influences people's health behaviors? Because I guess one of the things that's changed since we started work is that everybody had a BlackBerry and a smartphone, so you're supposed to be on call 24 hours a day. People don't take holidays anymore, and I always feel that a lot of corporations talk about we care about our people. People are our biggest asset. Without our people, then when I see what they're doing in reality, they don't necessarily seem to support their people, the individuals in their health journey.
They do not. They do not. They do not. I have spent a lot of time trying to get into corporations, and I finally concluded. I mean, when I first started, I thought, perfect, I can do this for lawyers. I have credibility with them. Guess what? They are not interested. They're happy to ring you out and have you die at your desk and put a new guy in there. That's the reality of the way things run. And I don't think it's really changed. And if you want a different environment, guess what? It needs to come right from the top.
Yeah.
It needs to be those people, or it's never going to work. I have spent a lot of time with wellness committees that got started at various corporations, designing it and everything else. And guess what? Either petered out after a couple sessions because of lack of interest and support. They felt like they couldn't take the time off to do this, or, they got busy
Yeah.
and business takes priority and they don't have time for wellness anymore. And if they're going to do something, usually they do something that's kind of pointless, like a weight loss challenge. So
So
they
goodness.
overeat before the start date and then they live on soup. And you're telling me that's accomplished something, and they
Wow.
do that all the time. So can you help us with a weight loss challenge? No, not
No.
like that.
Mm.
So I really think that corporate culture is pretty much the same, at least in the bigger places. And basically, you need to feel like you have permission to go take that half an hour and work out, or, walk around the block, or actually take a lunch break instead of you're too busy and you can't afford to.
Yeah.
And think about it this way too. Some of the big corporations, and this includes some of the law firms, they're notorious for having all the food available free all the time. You know what the point of that is? You
Never leave
never
the
leave.
office.
You
Seriously,
never
once you're in there for breakfast and then for lunch, and never dinner, you never leave the
Yep,
office.
yep. And
That's
people
yeah,
think it's so great. It's not.
yeah. It's no, not
And they
no.
talk a good game, but they don't do it. And I just think the technology's made it oh so much worse.
Mm.
Because it used to be you could truly disconnect on the weekend because it was too hard to stay connected, and usually
Yeah,
people didn't want to bother you at home or something. But now you're expected to respond to every text and email on Saturday and Sunday. That's the expectation. There are exceptions, but that pretty much is the expectation. And of course, you're on vacation. Who cares? You better go somewhere that has no cell service, or you're going to be expected. Or even if you disconnect, your dread is, I'm going to come back and I'm going to have 1,500 emails. I'll keep the stress level down better by filtering them during my vacation.
yeah,
How sad is that? Or a lot of people work on vacation. Well, I'm just going to bring my laptop just in case, and then three things blow up and they haven't paid any attention to their family the entire time they're on vacation. And most people don't take most of the vacation they're entitled to.
no. I must admit, I've been guilty of that. It's and certainly when you look back and you're no longer with the company, the company carries on. You weren't literally the be all
We're
and end
all
all. It's not.
fungible. Yeah.
We yeah we none of us are indispensable when the
No.
company doesn't want us anymore. So yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I didn't think I was, and boy, was I right.
So
The other thing you're talking about, the corporate environment and all that. One other thing that's very notable, people who retire and they leave their workplace, and their workplace was really the center of their social connections. That happens a lot just because
yeah
we spend so much time there.
yeah
Sometimes those people are really struggling a lot when they retire because they lost all of their social support. And it pretty much happened to me with law.
yeah.
There are one lawyer I keep in touch with, another one peripherally. That's it. I was
Mm,
there 23 years.
mm.
I have nothing in common with them anymore because it was all the workplace stuff,
Yeah, yeah. It's
you know?
no, it's and yeah. I funny when I left my last company, it really almost felt like a breakup of a relationship because I actually spent so much time, invested so much
Yes.
time, spent so much time with people, and then
It's
suddenly it's
part of
not
your
there anymore. It's like,
family in some way. It's your work family, I guess.
yeah, suddenly it's not there anymore. You feel wow, you feel bereft, and like I
You
say,
do.
you can go out for drinks and dinner, but they're talking about things have moved on, and you're sort
I
of
know. I
you're
would
one of
I
the
would
singers
go out
hanging
with
on,
them
and
later, and all they're talking about is their cases. I don't care about any of that stuff. You guys are boring me to tears. I don't think I'll keep doing this. It's
yeah.
the commonality's gone.
Mm. So a lot of people listening perhaps will know what they should be doing in terms of balancing their life and improving their health and all those all those good things. But there's a big difference between something we know we should be doing and actually doing it.
Yes.
What is it that you find helps people follow through in the general messiness of our lives?
Two things. One is you got to create some goals for yourself, and they need to be very specific and they need to be very slow.
Okay.
Don't try to go fast. You're going to fail because habits are very ingrained and they
Mhm.
developed for a purpose. They're working for a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
not all the reasons, but we give them up not easily.
Okay.
The other thing they need is accountability, which is why people hire me, Andrew. It's pretty hard to just do self accountability all the time and stay on track because I tell people in today's world, changing what you put in your mouth is the hardest thing to do. Keeping
Mm.
your stress level down, super hard.
Mm.
They're just ironically the toughest things to do. And particularly, I think about eating, and it's like no one's shoving food in your mouth other than you. You have control, but people don't take control. But starting to do little things like maybe I could bring my lunch to the office instead of
Mhm.
doing grab and go
Mm.
over time is going to make a big difference. But they need encouragement. They need to develop self efficacy. In other words, a belief in themselves that they can do this because they've tried so many quick fix diets, none of which worked, that they feel like they're the failure. They
Mm.
should be blaming the diet, but they're blaming themselves and they're doubtful about whether they can get control over their health. And so that's why, an outside person like me who they know is watching can make a difference. And even something as simple as keeping a food diary, people do 3 times as well just by the habit of keeping the food diary and creating that self accountability. Sometimes what can help is do it with a friend. You can do exercise apps where you're watching each other and what you're up to. You can be friends on MyFitnessPal and track your food and encourage the other person. Support helps immensely. And sometimes I like to cut to coach couples together, Andrew,
Mhm.
because one can be undermining the other, I've found.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that becomes a problem. But if they're on the same page and supporting each other, and also if they live in the same house, you want to have, one food environment that's helpful for everyone. I tell people, first thing I want you to do is control the food environment at home because you have total control over that. When you go out and you go to a restaurant, I'll help you, determine how to get a healthier dinner, but at home, control it, because in the house, in the mouth. Why are
Yeah.
you going down the chip aisle if you don't want some junky chips jumping into your cart? They don't jump aisles, just don't go
But
there.
it's funny that, isn't it? Yeah, and I think that, and we said this right at the very beginning. There's just so much more availability and immediacy. I mean, when I again, I sound so old now. When I was growing up, most stores where I lived had a half day closing on a Wednesday. You were closed all day Sunday, early
Yeah,
closing on Saturday, and they were pretty much closed at 5 p.m. That was it.
yeah,
Whereas now, with whether it be, I don't know, DoorDash or Uber Eats or 24-hour convenience, everything it's yeah, it's so easy to have not only to go out and buy something, but just to have anything we ever want to deliver to us. It's
yes, it's
yeah, you
terrible.
are it's and they do a great job marketing it. But again, you don't have to buy those things, but it's just having the determination not to. So do
One of the things I tell people is please take that app off your phone.
yes, it
Take
should be
it
one of the
off.
things you do is sort of check their phone when they come in as well. Here's the problem:
Uh-huh.
you got 7 different food apps on your
Delete,
phone.
delete, delete. Yeah.
Mm.
However, one thing I have found useful, impulse buys are a big problem in the supermarket,
Yeah.
the end of the aisle or the checkout.
Hmm.
And some people who order all their groceries online, they do a little better because there's no impulse buys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, can probably count on one hand how often I've been to a supermarket and come out with exactly what I went in there for, even with a list.
Exactly.
I go in there
Yeah,
with a list. Oh gosh, but it's half price. But these chips are
yeah.
buy one get one free. This is a new flavor. It's like it's not on a
Uh-huh.
list. But yeah, it's
Exactly.
interesting. You come across, and I mean this very positively, as very clear, very direct, very honest. How do you balance the need for what I'm sure are at times tough conversations, almost to the point where somebody comes in to see you, and it's almost, if you carry on in this path, you're shortening your life by 5, 10, 20 years, versus softly encouragement? How do you sort of balance the, not tough love, but do you have to be direct with clients sometimes?
I think so. I mean, I can crack the whip. Obviously, they know that. In fact, the irony is a lot of times I don't mention that I was a lawyer, and when it slips out in the conversation or they figure it out or something, they go, I knew that. And then I
Because
go, oh, well, I guess you didn't camouflage that very well. But I also have a huge amount of empathy for people
yes, yeah,
because changing behavior and actually focusing on your health is extremely difficult to do.
hmm,
It is extremely difficult. And when you're trying to change habits, there is a ton of exhausting brain work that goes into it in the beginning.
yeah,
To just, your first thing is just start understanding what do my habits look like? Oh, I was really snacking that much? I had no idea. Oh, I really didn't go to the gym that often. I had no idea. So they do like directness, though. They don't come to me because they want someone to say every week, oh, it's okay, honey, you didn't do it. But they want someone to hold them accountable.
yeah,
And a lot of them are very aware and they come to me and they say, look, I know exactly what I should be doing. I just can't do it on my own. And I'd
yeah,
say, you're right. And you shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed. It's really, really hard
hmm,
and you got a million things going on in your life. And guess what? I don't have a life. All I do is think about this and think about ways to make it easier for people to pay attention to their health. But the problem is, people have deadlines, they have obligations, and by the time they do all those things and just get through the day, they're exhausted. They don't have any time to think about their health, but it nags at them and it's a stressor with time
yeah,
and it's just hanging over their head. And they get dressed in the morning, they can only fit into this and they can't fit into that. They're going to have a picture taken, and boy, they're all headed for the back row. They're going to wear black. They
yeah. All those
they're
tricks.
not liking the way they feel, and I have a lot of people who have stopped doing things and feel incapable of doing a lot of things, and they think it's aging, and I say it's not. It's the weight. Go to
Yeah,
the store and pick up, a sack of rice or something that weighs 25 pounds. See how exhausted you would feel walking
yeah,
around with that. That's what you're doing. It's not a surprise. And I have people who are amazed that they kind of regained capabilities as they lost weight, which they thought they had lost with age. And a lot of people, frankly, just feel like maybe I should give up.
yeah.
You know, Maybe I should just be the fat old man or the fat old lady. Who cares? Everybody else is. Too much effort to be anything different. And I say I'm not giving in to the old lady. Why? I have a choice. I want to feel healthy, 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 dead. That's the way I want to go. I'm on skip that lingering illness for 15 years on 18 drug part. You have a choice. And 80% of how we age is lifestyle. 80%. Huge. And people like to use genetics as an excuse, and it is not. I mean, yes, nobody gets out alive. That's absolutely true. But wouldn't you like to feel good about yourself, feel good in your body, feel like when you walk around, you present yourself well and have confidence? Because it goes in your head very quickly. If you're embarrassed by the way you look, people realize that right away when they get their first impression of you.
Hmm.
All that stuff matters to people. But, if you haven't done anything and you're 60 years old, I have to tell you, it's going to be tougher. But it's still doable and it's still worth it. And losing just 5% of your body weight makes huge differences in your health parameters. So it's always worth working on. And look, when you're laying in the hospital bed, none of this other stuff that was oh so important matters one iota. And that pound, all that money that you amassed by
Yeah.
chasing your dream can't buy you a new life when you're dying because you neglected your health. It cannot.
Do you ever find yourself wandering down the chip aisle? And if you do, can you forgive yourself?
Well, the honest answer is I don't do the shopping because my husband loves shopping because he grew up in the generation where providing for your family was something to be very proud of.
Yeah.
So I normally don't go into the store, and when I do, I just don't go there. I don't want to see. But I get, I'm very supportive and I allow people to text me
Hmm.
during the week when they need support. And a lot of times, they'll be in the chip aisle and they're trying to look for less junky junk food, basically. And
Yes.
so they'll send me the nutrition label and they say, "What do you think about this?" And I'll write, "I think it's junk food." Here's another one. "What do you think about this?" Junk food. But, it doesn't mean you can never have an enjoyable treat. What it means is if when ice cream is in the freezer, you can't control yourself basically. Don't
Hmm.
go on willpower. Don't bring it in. But once in a while, yes, please go out to the creamery, get something very rich and
Yeah.
indulgent, get a reasonable portion, pay total attention to it, indulge, and you're done. But don't keep it in the house where it's a temptation and you're going to have to fight with yourself because you're going to lose. And you have to learn those things about yourself. And a lot of people, first thing I really want you to do is clean out your food environment, get it out of there. And, the struggle can come because the spouse eats crap. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't really police the spouse, or you got kids and they eat crap. And then you got to find your own strategy for it. I mean, sometimes the answer is let them buy the crap that they like that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because usually people don't like every single kind of chips, and maybe the hot flaming Doritos aren't your thing, but your kids are perfectly happy with them. Well, that's what they get.
Mhm.
Or
It's
if it's
interesting. It's
else, you
interesting.
just tell yourself it's not your food. I don't look at it. Please don't eat it in front of me, and you move on with life, which is what I do.
Mm. It's really interesting. Something you just said was about go out to the creamery, get the nice ice cream, really pay attention to it, and that's one thing. And I guess we touched on a little bit is that so often now we'll eat in front of the television, in front of our phones, whatever, and you
Yep.
often get to the end of the meal and you say to people, "How did you enjoy that meal?" And they wouldn't know what they'd eaten, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. We just keep eating, eating. It just becomes. It's not. And I always think of. I always give the example. I remember a few weeks ago buying a really juicy, in season, fresh, beautiful peach, maybe from California. And I remember standing outside in the sunshine with my dog, and I was eating this peach, and I could taste every juicy morsel of it. I could feel the sunshine in the peach, whatever.
Yes.
Versus just eating it on my phone watching TV. I wouldn't even have tasted it. But actually, the experience, it's almost a sexual experience. The experience of really devouring this gorgeous, juicy, nothing was more important at the time than that peach, versus just eating stuff in front
Yes.
of the TV or on my phone.
That's
It's
an
such a difference,
excellent
isn't it?
point. That's an excellent point. One thing I always tell people is it takes 20 minutes for your body and brain to get together and say you're 80% full,
Yeah.
stop eating. So if you scarf it down, you're never going to
You can eat a
have
lot in 20
anxiety.
minutes.
Yeah. But I also teach. I teach some courses online at a community college, and one of the assignments is to eat a raisin mindfully.
Mm, mm,
And that's a sort of it's a
mm.
tried and true kind of test to make you really enjoy it. See
Yeah.
what it feels like. What does it feel like in your mouth? What does it taste like? And the first time I was forced to do this exercise, and it feels very contrived and constrained, and it's like 10 minutes to eat one damn raisin. Ah. But they only had the golden raisins, which I always thought I hated the taste of. And they gave me a golden raisin for the test. And I thought, damn, they're actually pretty good now that I bothered to taste
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
But what I tell people is, set a timer for 20 minutes. And I say your brain needs to be on the food. Do not be scrolling. Do not be watching television.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the taste of the food. Eat it slowly. Put the fork down. It won't run away. I know you think it will, but it doesn't. Things like that. And it is a very difficult experience for people to pull off. So I say do something like maybe dinner's a little more sedate and you start
Mhm.
with dinner.
Yeah.
But I was very guilty of it. When I was a lawyer, here was lunch. I would bring in I was a fake vegetarian at the time, which meant I didn't eat meat, but I didn't eat vegetables either.
Great.
Pseudo vegetarian. So I
Mm,
bring in all these Stouffer's macaroni and cheese frozen dinners, and I had a
mhm.
wonderful secretary. And she knew when it was my lunchtime, and she'd heat it up and she'd bring it in the office and she'd put it right down next to me where I was working. Unbelievable to me now because I no longer have the same power of concentration, but I could not notice that she came in and put it there. And then, like 10 minutes later, I look over and I go, oh, there's lunch. I would eat it. I would continue working. I didn't know what I ate, as you just
Yeah.
described.
Mm.
Maybe it was a different version of a frozen dinner. I couldn't have told you which one I had. How sad is that?
No, I
And
think
and
99%
eating
of
is
people are the
one of the
same.
most enjoyable things. The last thing we
Is
give up before we die. That should be some kind of a clue, huh?
yeah, absolutely.
I remember when my dad had dementia and he was in a care facility and they're all about healthy nutrition and everything and he wouldn't eat the food. He would just push it away. And I said, could you give him a hot dog and ice cream? That's what he likes. I don't care about his balanced diet. We want him to eat. Give him a hot dog and give him some ice cream. He was still enjoying his food despite the dementia.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing. So my last question would be: are you the sort of person that sets out targets and goals for themselves? Do you know what the next 5 years looks like for you?
No, I've never done that. Career planning, I say waste of time. Business plan, I just bob and weave with the waves and I do the best I can. And I'm kind of trying to take it as an adventure.
Yeah,
But I know one thing about myself. I know I'm not going to sit around and wait for death to come. I don't have grandkids. I don't have a big travel bug. I'd be caught dead on a cruise. No, thank you very much. And so I need purpose, and my purpose I have found, and it is helping people with their health. And right now I'm in a place with my business where I have to bob and weave and, have some other kind of appeal because they're all on the weight loss medications and they used to come with weight loss. I would sneak all this other stuff in about metabolic health, but the hook would be the weight loss.
yeah,
So now I got to find a new hook to get them in. But if I feel like I helped somebody with their health, that makes me feel like I did something useful.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been very kind of you. I'll put lots of links to your work and your channels and things in the notes and things. Hopefully, people will find you and yeah, learn a bit more about what you do. So yeah, just keep up the good
Thank
work.
you so much. It was
It's
very
okay.
enjoyable, Andrew. You're very good to talk to. And
Well, thank
thank
you.
you for having a conversation instead of making me do a monologue with a couple questions in between. I like to engage. It's much more interesting. You're a very smart guy and you know a lot about this area, obviously.
Thank you.